I stood on the beach, watching the waves crash against the shore, feeling the weight of my wedding dress in the garment bag slung over my shoulder. Tomorrow, I'd walk down the aisle and marry Kylan, the man who'd taught me to trust again after years of building walls around my heart. This is really happening, I whispered to myself, digging my toes into the warm sand. The sunset painted everything gold, the perfect backdrop for my last evening as Daisy Moore, soon to be Daisy Montgomery. My phone buzzed, probably Mom with another last-minute question about the seating chart. I pulled it out, squinting at the screen. Unknown number. You should see what your best friend and fiancé are doing right now. Check the boat dock behind Pelican's Rest. My stomach dropped. I read it again, telling myself it was just a cruel prank, someone trying to ruin my happiness. I should delete it and enjoy my peaceful moment. Instead, I found myself walking toward Pelican's Rest, the upscale restaurant where we'd had our engagement party. My heart hammered against my ribs with each step. The rational part of my brain screamed to turn around. Kylan loved me. Alina had been my best friend since college. She was my maid of honor, for God's sake. But something pulled me forward. Maybe the same instinct that had warned me about my ex before I caught him cheating. The instinct I'd promised myself I'd never ignore again. The wooden docks stretched out into the water behind the restaurant. I slowed my pace, staying in the shadow of the palm trees. A few boats were moored there, gently bobbing in the evening tide. And at the very end, Kylan's boat, the Daisy Chain, named for me on our first anniversary. I moved closer, my wedding dress bag now feeling like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Through the cabin windows, I could see movement. Someone with long dark hair, Alina's hair, throwing her head back in laughter. And then Kylan came into view, his hand caressing her face in that gentle way I thought was reserved for me. My breath caught in my throat. I fumbled with my phone, opening the camera app with trembling fingers. I needed proof, something to look at later when I inevitably questioned whether I'd imagined the whole thing. I zoomed in just as Alina reached for something white and flowing. My wedding dress, the one I'd spent months selecting, that was supposed to be safely locked away at her apartment until tomorrow. She held it against her body, twirling as Kylan watched with an expression I recognized all too well. Adoration. The photo I took was crystal clear. Alina in my wedding dress, Kylan's hands on her waist, both of them smiling like they were the ones getting married tomorrow. I backed away, nearly tripping over a coil of rope. The garment bag slipped from my shoulder, hitting the dock with a soft thud. I left it there. What was the point of a backup dress now? Back on the beach, I collapsed onto the sand, my legs unable to carry me any further. The sun had disappeared, leaving everything in shadow. How fitting. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Now you know. Who are you? I typed back with shaking fingers. Unknown number. Someone who thinks you deserve better. Check your email. I opened my inbox to find a message with no text, just an audio file. I pressed play, holding the phone to my ear. I can't believe she hasn't figured it out. Alina's voice, clear as day. Daisy's always been so trusting. It's almost too easy. Don't talk about her like that. Kylan, sounding irritated. This isn't about Daisy. Of course it is. It's always been about Daisy. Perfect Daisy with her perfect life that should have been mine. Alina, don't Alina me. You know I'm right. We've been sneaking around for months. If you really felt that bad about it, you would have called off the wedding. I will, after the investors sign on. You know I need this merger with her father's company. Once the contracts are final, then what? We run away together? Please, you're using me just like you're using her. That's not true. I love you. I've always loved you. A pause, then Alina's laugh, sharp, like breaking glass. Prove it. Marry me instead. I stopped the recording, bile rising in my throat. The merger. Of course. Dad had been thrilled when Kylan proposed, saying it would cement the partnership between our family's businesses. I'd been so stupidly happy that I never questioned Kylan's timing. And Alina, my best friend since freshman year, the person who'd helped me pick out my wedding dress, who'd held my hair back when I got food poisoning last month, who'd been sleeping with my fiancé behind my back. I scrolled through my phone to the photo I'd just taken. Alina in my wedding dress with Kylan. The image blurred as tears filled my eyes. Then something inside me hardened. The tears stopped. I zoomed in on their smiling faces one more time before saving the image to a folder I created and named Evidence. Tomorrow wasn't going to be my wedding day after all. It would be the first day of making them pay. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Alina in my wedding dress, Kylan's hands on her waist. Their laughter echoed in my ears, drowning out the sound of the waves crashing outside my window. By dawn, I'd moved from shock to something darker, something that burned in my chest and cleared my head. I picked up my phone and texted Alina, "Hey, having pre-wedding jitters. Can you come over early? Need my best friend." Her response came immediately. "Of course. OMG, totally normal. Be there in 30 with coffee and bagels. Love you." Love you. The casual lie made my fingers tighten around my phone until my knuckles turned white. While waiting, I pulled up the recording again, listening to their voices plan my humiliation. I'd always thought Alina's laughter was warm, like summer sunshine. Now it sounded brittle and cold. The doorbell rang exactly 30 minutes later. I checked my face in the mirror, eyes clear, expression neutral. I could do this. There's my beautiful bride. Alina burst through the door in a cloud of expensive perfume, balancing a coffee tray and paper bag. Her dark hair was pulled into a messy bun, her smile wide and seemingly genuine. "I got your favorite, cinnamon bagel with extra cream cheese." I accepted the coffee she thrust toward me. "Thanks. So, talk to me." She plopped onto my couch, kicking off her sandals. Cold feet? Second thoughts? Whatever it is, it's totally normal. I sat across from her, studying the face I'd trusted for nearly a decade. "Actually, I had an interesting night." "Oh?" She bit into her bagel, cream cheese catching at the corner of her mouth. "I went for a walk on the beach, ended up near Pelican's Rest." Her chewing slowed slightly, but her expression remained curious. "The night before your wedding? Getting nostalgic about your engagement party? I saw something interesting at the dock." I kept my voice light, conversational. "Kylan's boat was there." Alina dabbed at her mouth with a napkin. "Was it? He told me he was having drinks with his groomsmen last night." "That's what he told me too." I smiled, feeling my face stretch unnaturally. "But he wasn't with his groomsmen, was he, Alina?" A flicker of something, worry, calculation, crossed her face before she laughed. "What are you talking about?" I pulled out my phone, found the photo, and slid it across the coffee table. "You look beautiful in my wedding dress." The color drained from her face as she stared at the image. For a moment, the only sound was the ticking of the clock on my wall and the distant call of seagulls outside. "Daisy, I can explain." "Can you? Please do." I leaned forward. "Explain why my maid of honor is trying on my wedding dress with my fiancé the night before my wedding." "It's not what it looks like." "Really? Because it looks exactly like what it is." I played the recording, watching her face crumple as her own voice filled the room. Perfect Daisy with her perfect life that should have been mine. When it ended, Alina's eyes were wet with tears. "I never meant to hurt you." "Bullshit." The word came out sharp, cutting through her performance. "You've been sleeping with him for months, planning this behind my back. He loved me first, you know. Her voice hardened, tears vanishing like they'd never been there. In college, before he ever met you. This was new information, a knife twist I hadn't expected. What? We dated for 2 years. Then he met you at that charity gala your father hosted, and suddenly I wasn't good enough anymore. Her laugh was bitter. Daisy Moore with her family connections and trust fund. How could I compete with that? So this is revenge? Sleeping with my fiancé because you're still bitter about a college breakup? It's justice. Alina stood, abandoning all pretense of remorse. He was mine first, and he still loves me. He's only marrying you for your father's company. And what's your excuse for betraying me? I've been nothing but a friend to you. A friend? She laughed, the sound like breaking glass. You've spent years showing off everything I couldn't have. Your perfect apartment, your perfect job that Daddy got you, your perfect fiancé. I got you a job at my father's company when you couldn't find work anywhere else, I said, disbelief coloring my voice. I let you stay in my guest room for 6 months when you couldn't afford rent. And I had to thank you for your charity every single day. Her eyes flashed. Do you have any idea what that feels like? To be grateful for the scraps from your perfect life. I stared at her, this stranger wearing my best friend's face. Get out. The wedding's still happening, Daisy. She gathered her purse, her movements precise and controlled. Kylan needs your father's business, and I need Kylan. If you think I'm going through with this wedding, you will if you don't want your father's company to collapse. She smiled, all teeth. Kylan's already moved most of your father's assets into accounts only he can access. Pull out of the wedding, and Daddy loses everything. My blood ran cold. You're lying. Ask him yourself. She walked to the door, then turned back. It should have been me, Daisy. It should have been us, and now it will be. The door closed behind her with a soft click that somehow sounded like the end of the world. I sat frozen, my untouched coffee growing cold in my hands. The wedding was in 6 hours. My father's company, his life's work, was apparently in jeopardy, and the two people I trusted most had orchestrated it all. My phone buzzed with a text from Kylan. Morning, beautiful. Can't wait to make you my wife today. I stared at his message, rage crystallizing into something cold and clear inside me. They thought they had won. They thought they knew what I would do. They had no idea what I was capable of. I stared at Kylan's text until my screen went dark. 6 hours until I was supposed to walk down the aisle. 6 hours to figure out if Alina was bluffing about my father's company. I called Dad, my heart pounding as the phone rang. There's my girl. His voice was cheerful. Nervous about the big day? Dad, I need to ask you something important. I kept my voice steady. Has Kylan been handling any of the company finances lately? A pause. Well, yes. We've been integrating our systems in preparation for the merger. Why do you ask? How much access does he have? Daisy, what's going on? You sound strange. I closed my eyes. Dad, I need you to check your accounts. Right now. I'm in the car on my way to the venue. I can't. Please, it's important. I heard rustling, then the sound of his fingers tapping on his phone. The silence stretched until I thought I might scream. That's odd, he finally said. I can't access the main operating account or the reserve fund. My stomach dropped. What about the investment portfolio? More tapping. No, that's locked. Says I need additional authorization. His voice sharpened. Daisy, what's happening? The wedding's off, Dad. Kylan's been cheating with Alina. They planned this whole thing to get control of your company. That's ridiculous. Kylan wouldn't. I have proof. Photos, recordings. They've been laughing behind our backs for months. Another long silence. Then, Come to my office, now. Dad's office was on the 20th floor of a glass tower overlooking the ocean. By the time I arrived, he'd assembled an emergency team of lawyers and financial advisors. Their expressions told me everything I needed to know. It's bad, Dad said, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Kylan's moved nearly everything offshore. We're locked out of our own accounts. Can we stop him? Not without his passwords and authentication. The merger paperwork gave him full access. Dad rubbed his face. I trusted him, Daisy. We all did. The weight of it crushed me. This wasn't just about my broken heart anymore. My father's life's work, the company he'd built from nothing, was being stolen. We need to confront him, I said, before the wedding. And say what? One of the lawyers looked up. Legally, he hasn't done anything wrong yet. The transfers were authorized under the merger agreement. But once you're married, another added, his position becomes even stronger. As your husband, he'd have claims to any family assets. I felt sick. So we need to stop the wedding without letting him know we're onto him. Dad nodded slowly. We need time to track the money and lock him out of the systems. How long? At least 48 hours. I checked my watch. 4 hours until the ceremony. Not enough time. Unless, Dad looked at me, an idea forming. Unless the bride doesn't show up. The plan was simple. I would disappear. No bride, no wedding. It would buy us time to trace the money and build a legal case against Kylan. I left Dad's office with a burner phone and instructions to stay hidden. No credit cards, no social media, no contact with anyone who might inadvertently reveal my location. But first, I needed to get something from my apartment. I was shoving clothes into a backpack when my doorbell rang. My heart jumped to my throat. Kylan? Alina? I peered through the peephole to see Zachary, one of our mutual friends, shifting nervously from foot to foot. I opened the door. Zach, what are you doing here? Checking on you. His eyes scanned my face. You haven't been answering your phone, and Kylan's freaking out. The wedding's in 3 hours. I'd forgotten about Zach. He'd been friends with both Kylan and me since college, always the reliable one, the voice of reason. I'm not going through with it, I said. His eyebrows shot up. What? Why? I hesitated. Zach was Kylan's friend first. Could I trust him? Daisy, what's going on? You look terrible. Thanks a lot. You know what I mean. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. Talk to me. Maybe it was exhaustion, or maybe I just needed someone to confide in who wasn't directly involved. But I found myself telling him everything. The betrayal, the recordings, the financial scheme. When I finished, Zach was silent, his expression unreadable. You don't believe me, I said flatly. No, I believe you. He ran a hand through his hair. I suspected something was off with them, but I never thought it was this bad. You suspected? He wouldn't meet my eyes. I saw them together a few times. Nothing concrete, just moments. The way they looked at each other when they thought no one was watching. Anger flared in my chest. And you didn't think to tell me? I wasn't sure, and Kylan always had explanations. They were planning your surprise birthday party or discussing wedding details. He looked miserable. I wanted to believe him. Well, now you know the truth. I zipped up my backpack. I'm leaving town for a few days. Don't tell anyone you saw me. Where are you going? Better you don't know. Zach caught my arm as I moved toward the door. Wait, I want to help. How? I work in IT, remember? If Kylan's moved money around, he's left digital footprints. I could trace them faster than any lawyer. I studied his face, looking for any sign of deception. Why would you help me instead of him? You've been friends longer. Because, Zach said quietly, some of us actually care about you, Daisy. Not what you can do for us, or what we can take from you. Just you. Something shifted inside me. Not trust exactly, but possibility. A potential ally when I needed one most. Okay, I said, but we do this my way. Zach and I holed up in a small beach motel 30 miles down the coast. The kind of place that still used actual keys and didn't ask questions when you paid in cash. The wedding hour came and went as we huddled over his laptop, tracking digital breadcrumbs through offshore accounts and shell companies. My phone had been buzzing nonstop. Kylan, my mother, bridesmaids, the wedding planner. I'd turned it off after sending Dad a text from my burner phone to let him know I was safe. You realize you're technically a runaway bride, Zach said, not looking up from his screen. There are probably 100 people at that venue right now wondering what happened to you. Let them wonder. I paced the small room, unable to sit still. Any progress? Some. Kylan's good, but he's not as clever as he thinks. Zach's fingers flew across the keyboard. He's been moving money through a series of accounts in the Caymans, but I've tracked most of the transfers. Can we reverse them? Not without access to his authentication codes. He rubbed his eyes. But we can prove what he did. That's something. My burner phone rang. Dad's number. What's happening? I asked without preamble. Chaos. Dad sounded exhausted. Kylan's telling everyone you had cold feet. Your mother's beside herself. I'm sorry about Mom, but this was the only way. I know, he sighed. But Daisy, Kylan's making moves. He's called an emergency board meeting for Monday morning. Says he needs to stabilize the company in light of our family crisis. He can't do that without you. He can if he has enough board support, and he's been courting my board members for months. My stomach dropped. How bad is it? If he convinces them to vote with him, I could be out by Monday afternoon. I looked at Zach, who was watching me with concern. We need more time. We don't have it. He's moving faster than we anticipated. After hanging up, I explained the situation to Zach. So we have less than 48 hours to stop him from taking over your dad's company, he summarized. We need to change tactics. What do you suggest? We need inside information, someone close to Kylan or Alina who might know their plans. I thought for a moment. Georgia, she's Alina's friend from work. They've gotten close lately. Can you trust her? I don't know, but she might know something useful. I used the burner phone to call Georgia, putting it on speaker so Zach could hear. Hello? Georgia sounded wary. It's Daisy. Don't tell anyone I called you. Oh my God, Daisy! Where are you? Everyone's looking for you. I know what Kylan and Alina have been doing, I said, cutting to the chase. I need your help. Silence then. What do you mean? They've been having an affair, planning to take over my father's company. I have proof. Another long pause. I didn't know about the company part. My breath caught. But you knew about the affair? Alina told me a few weeks ago. Her voice was small. I wanted to warn you, but she said it was complicated, that you wouldn't understand. Understand what? That my fiancé and best friend were betraying me? That they have history. They were together before you came along. Alina always felt like you stole him. That doesn't justify what they did. I know. Georgia sounded miserable. I should have told you. I'm sorry. I swallowed my anger. Getting mad at Georgia wouldn't help. I need to know what they're planning now. Have you heard anything? Alina's staying at Kylan's place. She mentioned something about a board meeting on Monday. Said by next week they'd be set for life. Anything else? Any details about how they're convincing the board members? No, but... She hesitated. Alina has a laptop she never lets out of her sight. She's been working on something she calls the presentation. Says it's going to change everything. I looked at Zach, who nodded encouragingly. Georgia, I need a huge favor. I need you to get me that laptop. What? I can't just steal? You don't have to steal it. Just get me access for an hour. That's all I need. Daisy, I don't know. You said you're sorry you didn't warn me. This is your chance to make it right. After some negotiation, Georgia agreed to invite Alina for brunch the next day. She'd accidentally spill something on Alina, forcing her to clean up in the bathroom. That would give us a window to access the laptop. After hanging up, Zach looked concerned. You're putting a lot of trust in Georgia. Do we have a choice? What if it's a trap? What if she tells Alina? I hadn't considered that. You think she would? I think Alina's manipulative, and Georgia already kept their secret once. The thought made my skin crawl. I'd been betrayed by the two people I trusted most. What was to stop it from happening again? We need a backup plan, I said. Zach nodded. I might have an idea, but you're not gonna like it. Try me. We need to talk to Sylvia. My heart sank. Sylvia was my mentor at work, but she was also on my father's board of directors, and she'd been the one who introduced me to Kylan in the first place. She's too close to this, I argued, and she thinks Kylan walks on water. Exactly. If anyone knows what he's planning with the board, it's her. Zach closed his laptop. Plus, if we can convince her he's not who she thinks he is, we might sway a crucial board vote. And if we can't convince her, if she warns him we're on to him, then we've lost nothing. He already knows you figured out the affair. He doesn't know we're tracking the money. I stared out the window at the darkening sky. The thought of facing Sylvia, of seeing the disappointment in her eyes when I told her I'd run out on my own wedding, made me feel sick. But Zach was right. We needed allies. Okay, I said finally. We'll talk to Sylvia, but first, let's see what's on Alina's laptop. Zach nodded, but his expression remained troubled. Just be prepared. Whatever they're planning for that board meeting, it's big, and they've been working on it for months. What do you think it is? I don't know, he met my eyes, but I think we're still missing something important. Something that would explain why they're so confident they'll win. The knot in my stomach tightened. He was right. Despite everything we'd uncovered, it felt like we were still only seeing part of the picture. And time was running out. The next morning, I sat in Georgia's car outside the trendy cafe where she'd arranged to meet Alina. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. You sure you can do this? Zach asked from the driver's seat. No. I pulled the baseball cap lower over my eyes. But what choice do we have? My phone buzzed with a text from Georgia. She's here, brought the laptop, sitting on the patio. I peered through the windshield. There she was, Alina, sipping a mimosa, her laptop bag resting against her chair. She looked completely at ease, like she hadn't destroyed my life 2 days ago. Remember the plan, Zach said. Georgia spills her drink. Alina goes to clean up. You grab the laptop. I copy the files. You return it before she comes back. And if she catches me? He handed me a USB drive. Then get this into her laptop for at least 30 seconds. It'll download everything automatically. Georgia's signal came 10 minutes later, a casual adjustment of her sunglasses. I watched as she gesticulated wildly during a story, then accidentally knocked over her mimosa, splashing Alina's white blouse. Alina jumped up, visibly annoyed. Georgia's apologies were profuse as she guided Alina toward the restrooms inside. Now, Zach said. I moved quickly across the patio, heart hammering. The laptop bag was right where Alina had left it. I grabbed it and hurried back to the car, sliding into the back seat. Hurry, I urged as Zach took the laptop and connected it to his equipment. It's password protected, he muttered. Try her birthday. Already did, and yours, and Kylan's. I thought for a moment. Try it should bend me. All one word. Zach typed it in. The screen unlocked. How did you know? It's what she kept saying, that it should have been her. The words still stung. Zach worked quickly, copying files while I kept watch. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. What's taking so long? I hissed. There's a lot here. Financial reports, presentations, emails. He stopped suddenly. Oh shit. What? These aren't just company files. There's a folder labeled Insurance. It's full of photos. He turned the screen so I could see. My breath caught. Photos of my father, meeting with people I didn't recognize, exchanging envelopes, shaking hands in dimly lit restaurants. What is this? I don't know, but it looks like... Zach hesitated. Like what? Like blackmail material. He scrolled through more images. There are financial documents too. Transfers to offshore accounts, meetings with people who look like they might be not entirely legitimate business partners. My mind raced. Dad had always been meticulous, ethical to a fault. This has to be fake. They're setting him up. Maybe, or maybe... A text from Georgia interrupted. She's coming back. Hurry. We need to go, now. I grabbed the laptop, shoving it back in its bag. Wait, I'm not finished. No time. I was already out of the car, rushing back to the patio. I placed the bag exactly where it had been and ducked behind a large planter just as Alina emerged from the cafe. I held my breath as she returned to her seat, checking her bag. She frowned slightly, unzipping it to look inside. Had she noticed something? But then Georgia distracted her with more apologies about the spill, and the moment passed. I slipped away, my mind reeling from what we'd seen. Back at the motel, Zach analyzed what he'd managed to download. It's worse than we thought, he said finally. They're planning to present this evidence to the board tomorrow. According to these notes, they'll claim your father has been embezzling funds and making deals with known criminals. That's ridiculous. Dad would never... There's pretty compelling evidence here, Daisy. Zach's voice was gentle. Bank transfers, meetings, communications. It has to be fake. Some of it might be, but... He hesitated. Some of these documents have authentication codes that would be nearly impossible to forge. I felt sick. So, what are you saying? I'm saying we need to talk to your father. Now. Dad agreed to meet us at a quiet diner off the highway. When he arrived, he looked like he'd aged years in days. You shouldn't be here, he said, sliding into the booth. Kylan has people looking for you. We found something, I said, pushing Zach's laptop toward him, on Alina's computer. Dad's face remained impassive as he scrolled through the files. Too impassive. Dad? My voice cracked. Tell me this isn't real. He closed the laptop slowly. It's complicated, Daisy. That's not a denial. He sighed, suddenly looking every one of his 55 years. When your mother got sick, the medical bills were substantial. Insurance wouldn't cover the experimental treatments. I had to find the money somewhere. The world tilted beneath me. So you, what, embezzled? Made deals with criminals? I did what I had to do to save her life. His eyes met mine, challenging. And I'd do it again. Does Mom know? No, and she can't find out. The stress could trigger a relapse. I sat back, stunned. The father I thought I knew, honest, principled, law-abiding, had been a fiction. How did Kylan find out? Zach asked. I don't know. I was careful. Dad rubbed his face. But he's been looking for leverage since he joined the company. He must have hired someone to dig into my past. And now he's going to use it to take control of the company, I said. Yes, with these documents, he can force me out and convince the board to appoint him as CEO. Dad looked defeated. I'll be lucky if I don't end up in prison. The weight of it crushed me. This wasn't just about my broken heart or betrayal anymore. My father could go to jail. My mother could relapse. The company that supported hundreds of employees could collapse. and it was all tangled up with my relationship with Kylan, a relationship I now realized I'd never fully understood. There has to be something we can do, I said, desperation creeping into my voice. Dad shook his head. The board meeting is tomorrow morning. Kylan has the evidence. It's over. No. I straightened my shoulders. It's not over, not yet. Daisy, you did what you did to save Mom. I understand that, but I'm not going to let Kylan and Alina destroy our family. I looked at Zach, who nodded slightly. We still have one card to play. What's that? Dad asked. Sylvia. I pulled out my phone. She introduced me to Kylan. She's been his mentor. If anyone can get through to him, or at least buy us time with the board, it's her. And if she sides with him? Dad's voice was quiet. I met his eyes. Then we fight, whatever it takes. As I dialed Sylvia's number, I felt something shift inside me. A hardening, a resolve. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about survival, and I was just getting started. Sylvia agreed to meet us at her beach house that evening. As we drove along the coast, storm clouds gathered on the horizon, matching my darkening mood. What if she doesn't believe us? I asked Zach, watching lightning flicker over the ocean. She will. The evidence is clear. The evidence also shows my father breaking the law. Zach glanced at me. You're having second thoughts. I'm wondering if I'm making everything worse. I pressed my forehead against the cool window. Maybe I should have just confronted Kylan at the altar, made a scene, let everyone know what he and Alina did. And then what? Your dad still goes down. The company still collapses. At least it would have been honest. Honest doesn't always mean right. Zach's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Sometimes the people who hurt us don't deserve honesty. They deserve whatever keeps them from hurting others. Something in his voice made me look at him more closely. You sound like you're speaking from experience. He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. My sister, he finally said. Her husband was not a good man. She tried being honest, confronting him, couples therapy, the works. He just got better at hiding who he really was. In the end, she had to play his game to get out safely. I didn't know you had a sister. There's a lot you don't know about me, Daisy. His smile was sad. We've all been playing roles for a long time. The implications of that statement hung between us as we pulled up to Sylvia's elegant beach house. Sylvia Hamilton had been my mentor since I joined my father's company 5 years ago. At 55, she commanded every room she entered with her silver-streaked dark hair and penetrating gaze. She'd taken me under her wing, taught me to navigate the male-dominated business world, and eventually introduced me to Kylan at a charity gala. Now she stood in her living room, arms crossed, as we laid out everything: the affair, the financial schemes, the blackmail material. I knew something was wrong when you didn't show up for the wedding, she said when we finished. But this is beyond anything I imagined. Do you believe us? I asked. She walked to the window, watching the storm that was now breaking over the beach. Kylan has been like a son to me. I've mentored him for years, opened doors for him. She turned back to face us. But yes, I believe you. Relief washed over me. Will you help us? That depends on what you're asking. We need to stop tomorrow's board meeting, Zach explained. Or at least delay Kylan's presentation until we can figure out a counter strategy. Sylvia's expression hardened. You realize what you're asking? If your father's activities come to light, I'm implicated too. As a board member, I had a fiduciary duty to prevent exactly this kind of behavior. You didn't know, I said. Ignorance isn't a defense in corporate governance. She sighed. I could lose everything: my reputation, my position, possibly face legal charges myself. I hadn't considered that. In my focus on saving my family, I'd overlooked how this scandal could destroy others. I'm sorry, I said. I didn't think, no, you didn't. Her words were sharp but not unkind. But that's why you need me, because I understand what's really at stake here. She walked to a cabinet and pulled out a bottle of scotch, pouring 3 glasses. Tomorrow's meeting isn't just about your father's actions or Kylan's ambitions. It's about the future of a company that employs hundreds of people. People with families, mortgages, children in college. I accepted the glass she offered, the amber liquid burning my throat as I took a sip. So, what do we do? We need leverage, Sylvia said. Something on Kylan that's worse than what he has on your father. We've been looking, Zach said, but he's careful. Everyone has secrets. Sylvia's eyes narrowed, and I think I might know where to start looking. She walked to her desk and pulled out a file. 3 years ago, before Kylan joined your father's company, he worked for Meridian Investments. They let him go suddenly, with no explanation. It was all very quiet. No announcement, no farewell party. He was just gone. You think he did something illegal there too? I asked. I don't know, but it's worth investigating. She handed the file to Zach. These are my notes from when I vetted him before recommending him to your father. Contact information for his former colleagues, dates of employment, projects he worked on. Zach flipped through the pages. This is good, really good. But the meeting's at 9 a.m. tomorrow. That's less than 12 hours to dig up something substantial. Then we'd better get started. Sylvia picked up her phone. I still have contacts at Meridian. Let me make some calls. As she stepped into another room, I turned to Zach. Do you think this will work? It's a long shot, he admitted, but it's all we've got. My phone buzzed with a text. Georgia. Alina knows someone accessed her laptop. She's freaking out, asking if I saw anyone suspicious at the cafe. I showed Zach the message. They know we're on to them. It was bound to happen. He ran a hand through his hair. We just need to work faster. Another text came through, this time from an unknown number. I know what you're doing, Daisy. Stop now, or I release everything I have on your father. You have 1 hour to respond. K. My blood ran cold. Kylan's threatening me. Zach read the message over my shoulder. He's bluffing. If he releases that information publicly, he loses his leverage with the board. Unless he has something else planned. I paced the room, my mind racing. What if the board meeting is just for show? What if he's already made deals with enough members to secure his position? Before Zach could respond, Sylvia returned, her expression grim. I just got off the phone with Meridian's former HR director, she said. She couldn't tell me much officially, but she suggested I look into a client complaint filed right before Kylan left. Something about unauthorized trading in a client's account. Can we get a copy of that complaint? Zach asked. Not through official channels, but... Sylvia hesitated. I know someone who might have access to their internal records, someone who owes me a favor. How long will that take? A few hours, if we're lucky. She checked her watch. It's 8 p.m. now. We should have something by midnight. My phone buzzed again. Time's running out, Daisy. One last chance to walk away. After tonight, there's no turning back for any of us. I looked up at Sylvia and Zach, their faces illuminated by lightning flashing through the windows. The storm had arrived in full force now, rain lashing against the glass. Tell your contact we need those records, I said to Sylvia, my voice steadier than I felt. And Zach, keep digging through what we have. There has to be something we've missed. What are you going to do? Zach asked. I stared at Kylan's message, a plan forming in my mind. I'm going to buy us time, the only way I know how. I typed a response. Meet me, just you, no Alina, the lighthouse point, 10 p.m. His reply came instantly. Come alone or the deal's off. Daisy, no, Zach said, reading over my shoulder. It's too dangerous. It's our only chance. I met his worried gaze. I need to keep him distracted while you and Sylvia find what we need. At least let me come with you. I can wait nearby. I shook my head. He'll be watching. If he sees you, he'll leave. Then wear a wire, Sylvia suggested. I have equipment here from a corporate espionage case last year. You have surveillance equipment just lying around? Zach asked incredulously. Sylvia's smile was thin. In my world, it pays to be prepared. As they set up the wire, I stared out at the raging storm. In a few hours, I'd be face to face with the man who'd betrayed me, threatened my family, and nearly destroyed everything I cared about. And I had absolutely no idea what I was going to say to him. The lighthouse stood stark against the stormy sky, its beam cutting through sheets of rain. I parked at the base of the rocky point and checked the wire Sylvia had taped to my skin. The small receiver was tucked into my bra, nearly invisible under my rain jacket. Testing, testing, I whispered. Can you hear me? Zach's voice came through the tiny earpiece. Loud and clear, we're parked half a mile back, monitoring everything. If anything feels wrong, you get out of there, Sylvia added. We have enough to at least delay the board meeting. Your safety matters more. I wasn't sure that was true anymore, not with so much at stake. I'll be fine. Just keep digging into those Meridian records. The rain pounded against my hood as I made my way up the narrow path to the lighthouse. Lightning flashed, illuminating a familiar silhouette waiting on the observation deck. Kylan. My heart hammered against my ribs. 3 days ago, I'd been preparing to marry this man. Now I was wearing a wire to gather evidence against him. He turned as I approached, his face half hidden in shadow. You came alone. As promised, I kept my distance, painfully aware of the sheer drop to the rocks and churning water below. You wanted to talk, so talk. Where have you been, Daisy? Everyone's been worried sick. Worried? I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. Is that what we're calling it? You and Alina seemed to recover from your disappointment pretty quickly. His expression hardened. So you know. I know everything. The affair, the financial schemes, the blackmail material on my father. I stepped closer, rain streaming down my face. What I don't know is why. Was any of it real, Kylan? Did you ever actually love me? Something flickered across his face. Regret, maybe, or just calculation. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Like what? You weren't supposed to get caught? I wasn't supposed to hurt you. He ran a hand through his wet hair. Alina and it's complicated. We have history. Save it. I'm not interested in your excuses. I crossed my arms. What do you want from me? I want you to stop whatever you're planning. Call off your father's lawyers. Stop digging into my past. He stepped closer. The board meeting happens tomorrow no matter what, but it doesn't have to destroy your family. What are you offering? A compromise. I take over as CEO, but your father stays on as chairman emeritus. No criminal charges, no public scandal. He keeps his reputation. Your mother never learns the truth, and the company survives. And what do you get? What I've earned. Control of the company. The merger completed on my terms. His eyes met mine. And you leave town, permanently. I stared at him, searching for any trace of the man I thought I'd known. Why should I trust you? Because despite everything, I did care for you, Daisy. Maybe not the way you deserved, but enough to offer you this way out. And if I refuse? His expression hardened. Then I release everything. Your father goes to prison. Your mother learns her treatments were paid for with dirty money, and the company collapses. Hundreds of people lose their jobs, all because you couldn't let go of your pride. The earpiece crackled. Zach's voice, urgent. Daisy, we found something. Meridian fired Kylan for embezzlement. He stole from client accounts, then covered it up. We have the internal investigation files. My pulse quickened, but I kept my expression neutral. What about Alina? Where does she fit in your grand plan? Kylan's laugh was bitter. Alina's useful, ambitious. She knows things about me that could be problematic, and I know things about her. So it's mutual blackmail? How romantic. It's business. He stepped closer, his voice softening. It was always business, Daisy. That's something you never understood. In this world, everyone uses everyone. The only question is whether you're smart enough to come out on top. Like you used me to get to my father's company? Yes. No hesitation, no shame. And I'd do it again. The raw honesty stunned me. This was the real Kylan, calculating, remorseless, seeing people as pieces on a chessboard. Sylvia, Zach's voice again in my ear. She's got something else. A recording of Kylan admitting to the Meridian theft. She's sending it to the board members now. I needed to keep Kylan talking. What happens to the company after you take over? To the employees? Restructuring, downsizing, the usual. He shrugged. The valuable parts will survive. The rest? Business is business. Lightning cracked overhead, illuminating his face fully. For the first time, I saw him clearly. Not the charming man I'd fallen for, but the predator beneath. So what's it gonna be, Daisy? Do we have a deal? My phone buzzed. A text from Sylvia. It's done. Board members have the Meridian evidence. Emergency meeting called for 7 a.m. to discuss Kylan's removal. Keep him talking. I slipped the phone back into my pocket, a strange calm settling over me. You know what I've been asking myself these past few days? Whether I ever really knew you, whether anything between us was real. Does it matter now? It does to me. I stepped closer, close enough to see the raindrops clinging to his eyelashes, because I need to know if I was completely blind or if you're just that good a liar. Something flickered in his eyes, uncertainty perhaps. Daisy? You want my answer? Here it is. I pulled out my phone, showing him the screen with Sylvia's message. The board has the Meridian files. They know you were fired for embezzlement. They're meeting at 7 a.m. to discuss your removal. The color drained from his face. You're bluffing. Am I? Check your email. Sylvia sent everything to the entire board. I smiled, feeling a strange lightness. It's over, Kylan. You lost. He lunged forward, grabbing my arm. What have you done? Let go of me. My voice was steady despite the fear coursing through me. You think this changes anything? I still have the evidence against your father. Release it. Go ahead. I met his gaze without flinching. My father made mistakes trying to save my mother's life. What's your excuse for stealing from your clients? For betraying everyone who trusted you? His grip tightened painfully. You stupid, naive. The board knows everything, Kylan. And right now, Sylvia and Zach are recording this entire conversation. I pulled back my jacket, revealing the wire, including your admission about restructuring the company and your threats against my family. He released me as if burned, staggering back. You set me up. I learned from the best. The rain had soaked through my clothes, but I barely felt it. It's over. Go home. For a moment, I thought he might attack me. His hands clenched into fists, his face contorted with rage. Then, abruptly, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the storm. I stood alone at the lighthouse, rain washing over me, feeling the weight of the past days, the betrayal, the fear, the desperate scramble to save what mattered, begin to lift. It wasn't over yet. There would be fallout, consequences, difficult conversations. But for the first time since finding Alina in my wedding dress, I could breathe. Daisy? Zach's voice in my ear. Are you okay? I looked out at the dark ocean, the storm beginning to break. Yes, I said, I'm coming home. Morning broke clear and bright. The storm washed away as if it had never happened. I sat in the boardroom, my father beside me, as the last of the board members filed in. The tension in the air was thick enough to touch. Are you ready for this? Dad whispered. I nodded, though my stomach churned. After the confrontation at the lighthouse, we'd worked through the night with Sylvia, preparing for this moment. The evidence against Kylan was damning, but my father's actions still hung over us like a sword. The door opened one final time. Kylan walked in, Alina trailing behind him. His eyes met mine briefly before sliding away. He looked polished as ever in his tailored suit, but there was something brittle in his composure. I believe we all know why we're here, Sylvia began, standing at the head of the table. Serious allegations have been made against both our CEO and our CFO in waiting. Murmurs rippled around the table. Kylan leaned forward. If I may, you'll have your chance to speak, Sylvia cut him off. But first, the board deserves to hear everything. For the next 20 minutes, she methodically laid out the evidence. Kylan's embezzlement at Meridian, his manipulation of company funds, his recorded threats. With each revelation, his face grew paler. When she finished, he stood. These accusations are outrageous. Yes, I left Meridian under difficult circumstances, but those records have been manipulated. He turned to the board members. What you should be focusing on is this. He slid folders across the table. Evidence of Robert Moore's illegal activities, activities that put this entire company at risk. My father stiffened beside me. This was the moment we'd been dreading. Mr. Montgomery, one of the board members said, are you suggesting we ignore your misconduct because of allegations against Mr. Moore? I'm suggesting you look at the bigger picture. Kylan replied smoothly. Who do you want leading this company? Someone who made a youthful mistake or someone who has been systematically breaking the law for years? The room fell silent. I felt the weight of every gaze, the judgment in their eyes. This was the moment everything could fall apart. I stood up. Ms. Moore, Sylvia said, you don't have to. Yes, I do. I looked around the table, meeting each person's eyes. My father broke the law. He made choices that put this company at risk. There's no denying that. Kylan's triumphant smile made my blood boil. But there's something you should know about those choices. I opened my own folder, passing documents around the table. 5 years ago, my mother was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. Her treatment wasn't covered by insurance. These are her medical records, the experimental treatment protocols, and the bills. I watched as they flipped through the pages, their expressions shifting from suspicion to something softer. My father did what he did to save my mother's life. Was it right? No. Was it legal? Definitely not. I took a deep breath. But it was done out of love, not greed, and every penny has been paid back to the company with interest. Murmurs of surprise circled the table. This was the card we'd played. My father had spent the night transferring his personal assets to repay everything he'd taken. In contrast, I continued, Mr. Montgomery's actions at Meridian and here were motivated solely by personal gain. He stole from clients. He manipulated company funds. He attempted to seize control through blackmail and threats. Kylan stood abruptly. This is absurd. You're trying to play on their sympathies with a sob story. No, I'm telling the truth. Something you might try sometime. I turned back to the board. My father is prepared to step down as CEO. He accepts responsibility for his actions. But before you decide the company's future, you should know exactly who's asking for your trust. I nodded to Sylvia, who pressed a button on her laptop. Alina's voice filled the room. I don't care about the company. Once we have control, we can strip the assets, sell off the divisions, and be done with it. The board are all idiots anyway. Then Kylan's voice, patience, Alina. First we get control, then we dismantle it piece by piece. The real money's in the liquidation. The recording ended. Alina had gone pale. Kylan looked like he might be sick. Where did you get that? He demanded. Georgia stood up from her seat in the corner. From me. I recorded it at your apartment last night. She looked at me. I'm sorry, Daisy, for not telling you sooner, for being part of this. I nodded, accepting her apology without words. The board's decision was unanimous. Kylan and Alina were escorted from the building by security. My father resigned as CEO, but was allowed to retain a position as advisor to help with the transition. Sylvia was named interim CEO. As we left the boardroom, Dad squeezed my hand. I'm sorry, Daisy, for everything. I know. The anger I'd felt toward him hadn't disappeared, but it had softened. We'll figure it out. In the lobby, Zach waited, concern etched on his face. How did it go? It's over, I said. All of it. What happens now? I looked out the glass doors to the bright morning beyond. I don't know. For the first time in my life, I don't have a plan. Sounds terrifying, he said with a small smile. Actually, it feels like freedom. We walked outside together, the sun warm on my face. I stopped at the bottom of the steps, turning to look back at the building that had been the center of so much pain and betrayal. You know, Zach said quietly, most people would be destroyed by what you've been through. Maybe the old Daisy would have been. I turned away from the building, away from the past, but I'm not her anymore. The realization hit me with surprising force. The woman who had stood on the beach with her wedding dress, trusting blindly, believing in fairy tales, she was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, someone who had looked betrayal in the face and survived. No, Zach agreed. You're not. We walked toward the parking lot together, neither of us speaking. There would be time later for decisions, for figuring out what came next. For now, it was enough to feel the sun on my skin and know that I had fought for myself and won. Daisy, Zach said as we reached his car, there's something I've been wanting to tell you. I looked at him, really looked at him, perhaps for the first time. The friend who had stood by me, who had believed in me when everything was falling apart. I think, I said, cutting him off with a smile, that whatever it is can wait for coffee. I'm buying. His answering smile was like sunrise. Deal. As we drove away, I didn't look back. The past had taken enough from me already. The future, uncertain, unwritten, mine to shape, was waiting.